Hello, and welcome to not even one of these proper series. It's just, I guess you can call this a podcast because, we've done this for a while now. Every once in a while, we've just done these off the cuff discussion things. So, I am Steve, the guy that created the channel, and I'm joined by my friend Kat.
Hello.
And the idea for this video came about when, in the 2023 content survey I did, I was asking if there should be any other reviews based around, Powerpuffs, Teenage Robot, Kim Possible, etc. And somebody actually had a suggestion for three of these episodes in particular, and I decided to throw in this MLP one because why not? After all, we are wrapping up MLP season 2, so I figured why not throw in one more and talk about Hearts and Hooves Day. So the episodes in question are Keane on Keane, Motion Sickness, Ball and Chain, and Hearts and Hooves Day. So Powerpuffs is first, then Kim Possible, then Teenage Robot, then My Little Pony. So we're going to be starting with Keane on Keane. So Keane on Keane is from season 5. So this is one of the post Powerpuff movie episodes, which is why the character designs are different. And the plot is the girls want to pair up Miss Keane with the professor because they both say that they're single on Valentine's Day. So they forge secret admirer notes to them, and then they end up meeting up at a restaurant, which is, of course, some Chuck E. Cheese type place. They have the most awkward first date ever. At first they're like thinking to themselves in inner monologue, like, oh no, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I didn't ask them here. And so then they sit down and they're just having the most awkward conversations ever. Like, yeah, it's water. It's pretty wet, huh? Yeah, it's real good. And then they notice that the girls are watching them from the ball pit. And then they're like, oh, the girls tried hooking us up on a date. Ha ha ha. So then they try to take the girls home and try to let them know like they appreciate it, that they're looking out for them, but it's not going to work out. And then cheesy romantic movie fashion, as the professor walks Miss Keane to her door. She trips, he catches her, slow motion, eyes lock, sparks fly. They're all of a sudden an item. And then the rest of the episode plays out that they're just infatuated with each other and doing obnoxious puppy love speak, which we're going to get to when we get to Hearts and Hooves Day. But it gets on everybody's nerves. They're not getting any of their requirements done. Like the professor is slacking off as a father and Miss Keane is slacking off as a teacher. And what's worse is they end up clogging up the hotline whenever the mayor tries to call and tell the girls they need to save the city from something. And ultimately the episode just kind of ends. Like it is kind of funny, but what ends up making them not like each other anymore is she reveals she has a pet cat. And then in an admittedly kind of funny example of continuity, the professor says, well, I can't be with a woman who has a cat because I had a bad relationship with one. It's supposed to be in reference to the Catmandu episode from season 1 or season 2, I believe. And then they even end with one of those like narrator gags at the end where so once again the day was saved thanks to Miss Keane's cat. And it's like, okay, yeah, I guess. I don't know. Kat, what did you think of this episode?
I think the pacing was starting to slow down a little bit. That was a problem with later season episodes for Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab, and we could do a whole podcast about that. But I think that the idea is cute, since the last time the girls set up a professor with someone, it didn't end up very well. At least Miss Keane is actually nice, but I think the professor and Miss Keane should have known better to not get all mushy-gushy baby talk with each other, because they do have responsibilities as a parent and a teacher, respectively.
Yeah, that was really weird. That felt really out of character, which granted there's a lot of problems with characters going out of character in the last 2 seasons of Powerpuffs, and while this isn't the worst example of it, it really did come off as just kind of forced. And I'm going to say the exact same thing when we get to Hearts and Hooves Day, but Yeah, if you hate that whole like, oh baby wavy schmoopy 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 schmoopy, that's really gonna hinder your your tolerance for the comedy in this episode, especially in the later half.
Yeah, I can tolerate it enough in small doses, but just seeing them monopolize the phone when they clearly could have just gotten their own cell phones, because this is like early 2000s, they could afford a phone,
Yeah,
not use the damn hotline.
it was the era of flip phones. They could do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of funny that the mayor gets in on their conversations, like I guess the same way that someone would get into a soap opera. But it is kind of funny that like this episode has way more stakes than Hearts and Hooves Day, which I'm going to complain about that when we get to it. But uh, it's kind of funny that like the entire town is just under attack, and there's a montage where they, as they're hogging up the hotline, Miss Bellum keeps looking out the window, and there's just various things attacking the city, and it seems like it's not a big deal.
You think that the girls would just take initiative on their own, seeing that the city is in trouble.
Yeah,
And the professor is kind of rude, like when he starts dating Miss Keane. Like he gives a stuffed animal to Bubbles, and she's excited, but he says, "Oh, that's not for you. That's for Miss Keane." And she, in spite, later on, like tears the head off the bear. The bear didn't do anything. Don't do that.
yeah. Oh God, that was just awkward to me. Just like he's like, I was like, oh yeah, like I can't drive you girls to school, which by the way, they can fly. That's weird in its own. But then she's like, but then he's like, oh yeah, I gotta get in shape. The ladies, they don't like those scrawny scientist types. And I'm like, okay, that's it's like take your damn kids to school. And then Miss Keene shows up late because she was like shopping and she has like extra makeup on her face, and it's that whole section is just so awkward, especially when it gets to the lovey speak, which is
Oh, it's just so awkward and lame. And I, yeah, the pacing just slows down to a crawl in later seasons Powerpuff Girls.
yeah. It feels like the episode should have ended like it should have ended after they tried taking the girls home. Like that's the way the episode's paced. It feels like that should be the end, but then you check the time and it's like, oh, that's halfway through the episode. Wait, what else is supposed to happen?
It's just kind of a clunker to start with, and I feel bad saying that because I liked Powerpuff Girls growing up.
Yeah, same here. Oh God. So should we move on to the next one?
Sounds good.
All right. So next one is Emotion Sickness from Kim Possible. This is from the third season. It's fairly early on in the third season too. This is the episode that essentially started planting the seeds that Kim and Ron were supposed to get together. In a good bit of continuity, the episode starts with them acknowledging that Kim and Josh Mankey are no longer going out, because that was something they established super early on, even in the first episode that they aired of this series. But it didn't work out. Apparently, Josh Mankey is now going out with that blonde cheerleader girl, Tara, who hilariously enough is played by Tara Strong. So that's Tara playing Tara. That's, yeah.
Terraception.
Yeah. And at first, Ron tries to keep it from Kim, thinking that she doesn't know. But then she's like, "Oh yeah, I know. I don't care. It's like I'm over it." And I like how Ron was so oblivious to the fact that Tara liked him, because I think that was in another episode. I think that was the Swamp Kid episode from season 1. But anyway, they get called on a mission because, of course, Draken and Shigo are trying to steal technology from another scientist who, I could be remembering this wrong, but I think this is the same scientist from the Twin Factor episode, the one with the mind control compliance chips. I think that might be the same scientist. He's creating modulators, which are a type of technology that can control people's emotions, and he wants to sell it on the internet to the highest bidder. But of course, he steps away for a couple seconds, and then Draken and Shigo show up trying to steal his tech. Kim and Ron show up. There's a huge fight, but the modulator chips end up on the back of Kim and Shigo's necks, which ends up coming into play to the plot because they accidentally forget the communicator, and instead Ron picks up the device that controls the things, and he keeps accidentally switching the emotions on the thing. So that's why Kim and Shigo start going through intense mood swings, going from incredibly pleasant to incredibly sad to incredibly violent, and ultimately, for the majority of the episode, overly affectionate and love-struck, with Kim falling in love with Ron and Shigo falling in love for Draken. And just like the other one, there's a montage, this time set to like a cappella romance music of them doing romantic things like running through the park and getting pictures at a photo booth. And ultimately, this is building up to some big themed event for the town that's centered around pickles. I forget what the connection was, but the beginning of the episode even has Ron trying to don a pickled mascot costume. Well, this is the first episode that had Kim and Ron kiss. So like this is them trying to build that up. And I think it's kind of appropriate because they thought the third season was going to be the end. But then, of course, then fans demanded a fourth season, and then they had to work off of that. But they were like, well, if we were going to make a final season to the show, we wanted it that we finally had those two get together. So this was kind of planting the seeds of that, and eventually they would have paid it off in the drama where they officially get together. And Ron has this whole scene where he's trying to contemplate if he should go into a relationship with her or if that'll ruin their dynamic. And it plays out like the typical character contemplating things scene because it jump cuts between like, I don't know, maybe it could be really good for our relationship. No, it'll just ruin the dynamic. Oh, I don't know. And then eventually it turns out he's in Principal Barkin's house. He's like in a bathroom. He's like, Stoppable, how did you get in my house? But ultimately, yeah, so he decides he's going to go on a date with Kim, and he tries to break it to her gently, and this is when the modulators start to go out of control, and then they switch over into extreme anger. All the while this is going on, Shigo is just fawning over Draken, which is hilarious.
That was funny.
And I gotta say, a lot of the banter in this episode is some of my favorite. I mean, this show, whenever it had like dialogue-centric humor, I thought it was really great. But one of my favorite ones is it's before they go to where Kim and Ron are, and they're having like milkshakes, and she goes like, so you know what this is about, right? And then Draken's like, what, if I drink too much of this, I'm not going to be able to fit into a size 6? No, taking over the world, silly. Oh, yeah, right. Besides, I don't think I could ever really fit into a size 6. And so then once the modulators go out of control and Kim and Shigo are in a fit of uncontrollable anger, they even established that the modulator things have like short-circuited, and that's another one of my favorite jokes. It's like, please tell me Kim's back to normal. Please say that she's back to normal. And then the scientist guy's like, I'm afraid that the modulators are damaged and your friend is stuck in an uncontrollable fit of rage. And then Ron just sarcastically goes, dude, what did I just say? And ultimately, the friendship is magic at the end of the episode, because then Kim does snap out of it, and it's implied, who knows, maybe she does want to be in a relationship with Ron. And then the episode also ends with Draken running for his life away from Shigo, who's still pissed off.
This show was so good.
Yeah. This is probably the best episode of the night.
Absolutely. Let's see. Well, to start, I think somebody important in Middleton had something to do with pickles or whatever, and that's why they're doing it. Odd, but whatever. Let's see. Ron is really such a good friend to try and help Kim not see her ex-crush be with someone else, but Bonnie is, of course, a terrible person.
Shock of shocks.
And they're both surprised that Kim is actually being mature about it. So,
yeah,
good on her for being mature and not being all, my life is over.
So not the drama, so in denial.
Yeah, Bonnie, I think you're projecting.
I love Ron's follow-up to that. He's like, way to keep the composure.
Yeah, and Draken is definitely lazy, stealing other people's inventions.
It's called
For an evil
outsourcing.
genius, he's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Well, I know we knew that.
Yeah.
Apparently, the communicator and this emotion device thing look pretty similar.
And Ron confuses it for a portable game thing later. Oh, and so do the twins.
Yeah. Did you notice that when Kim and Shigo act confused, they sound kind of stoned? is that one of the emotions on there? Like just being like a confused bunny rabbit or something?
Oh yeah, because there is that part where like Shigo temporarily snaps out of it. She's like, "Wait, what was I talking about?" And Draken's like cowering in the corner. He's like, "Is this because I forgot your birthday?"
Oh, that was funny seeing Shigo go all insane. But apparently, you do not want to have Kim and Shigo mad at you because if they're stuck on anger mode, they'll turn into the Hulk.
What was that? Like Kim just picks up Ron over her head and throws him.
I thought for sure when Ron was debating with himself, I thought he was talking to Rufus.
Yeah, I think they did that for the comedy to try and like bait and switch the audience. Like, oh, that's who he's talking to, and then there's reveal of Barkin. Usually he goes to Rufus for everything. It's like he's like his aside from Kim, he's like his best friend. So you think that that's where he's getting his advice from.
Yeah, but I really like that debate he has with himself because it shows how mature he is, like, well, for Ron, and how much he cares about his friend. It's certainly better than other couples that were established later on in Disney shows I could think of. Marco's Star.
Oh God. Oh God. That's like you said, that's a discussion for another time. God,
Yeah,
the
we can save that for later. But
Oh,
yeah, and it's kind of funny when Shigo is in all lovey-dovey, mushy-gushy mode. She's not only still kind of scary when she's trying to seduce Draken, but they get away with a lot with her because
oh my God,
she's
yeah.
an adult.
Yeah, with the way she's like posing on his desk.
Yeah, it's like, kid show, remember? It is nice that Kim's friendship with Ron was able to break her off of that device. Because she doesn't really want to hurt him. It's just the emotion thingies that are making her all cuckoo. And it's just kind of funny that everybody meets at this weird pickle festival.
It's the centerpiece of the episode for its climax.
Yeah, that's really funny. And I like how Wade is just so weirded out when he does see them kiss.
Yeah, that was really funny.
That was a top tier episode in terms of not only character development for Ron and Kim's relationship, but also just how funny it was. The pacing was great.
Yeah, it's definitely a step up from the one right before it. Like that one's pacing was so all over the place. This one just right. So I guess now we move on to the third episode.
Yep.
Oh God. Okay, so this is Ball and Chain. This is a season 3 episode of Teenage Robot, and I'm gonna be totally honest. I've said this before in another video, but Teenage Robot, I probably remember season 1 the most. Season 2, I remember most of from, but there was a couple episodes of season 2 I didn't watch as a kid because Nickelodeon sucked at airing the show. In season 3, I only remember like 2, 3, 4 episodes. So this one, when I was rewatching the series for the first time back in 2018, I actually totally forgot this episode existed. But now we're talking about it here. So this one, it's about the space bikers. Remember them? They show up and pretty much Shanghai Brad into marrying Tammy, who's the ditzy one of the group. And I like how they have a bunch of fake flashbacks to when she's being like oddly affectionate with him. And I remember you even asked me, you're like, was this in any other episode? I'm like, no, they made it up. But so yeah, they're pretty much doing a shotgun wedding on this poor lad. And Jenny shows up super late because she was knocked out, because she was electrocuted because of like a sprinkler system in the school. But then she wakes up way too late, tries to crash the wedding. And well, Brad says that he actually is okay with marrying Tammy because he wants a life of adventure, which does go along with Brad's character. There's a bunch of other episodes where it's like he wants to do more than just be an average teenager and he wants to go on exciting adventures. So he thinks that this will be a good way for him to do that. Jenny reluctantly allows this. This episode has one of the 3 kisses in this show, and it's the only one between Jenny and Brad. So enjoy that, Jenny Brad shippers. And well, after the wedding goes through, they also show that Tammy is apparently super beautiful as far as frog or fish people go. But then it turns out that, well, their marriage is not going to be pleasant because, of course, they're just going to use and abuse Brad as horribly as possible. So then Jenny shows up, kicks their asses, sends them packing, and Brad seems otherwise pretty chill about the fact that like that all that happened. He's like, well, can I at least call you? And of course, she's just like, goodbye, Brad. And oh, and I guess a running gag in this episode is that Tuck was pretty much going to pimp Brad out so that he can go on space biker adventures. It's like, what the hell is that?
Sheesh.
Oh god, yeah, not a whole lot to say about this episode. I'm curious what your notes are.
Well, to start, of course, Brad is kind of lame at picking up girls, but some of the girls' insults to him were really rude.
Like that's another running thing in this show. Whenever Brad tries to flirt with girls, he does it in the lamest, dorkiest way possible.
Yeah. But I still ship him and Jenny more than Sheldon and Jenny.
Right on.
Yeah. I was surprised that the biker ladies wanted to have a shotgun wedding with Brad, since they just seemed like bullies the first time we saw them.
Yeah, they atomic wedgie him and then beat him up in the first episode they show up in.
Yeah. You think that after getting the crap beaten out of them by Jenny, they would not want to have that happen again, so they'd want to stay away from anybody associated with Jenny. Oh, also, apparently she's learning how to pronounce things in different languages, and she's kind of bad at it.
Yeah, oh god, that scene of her trying to speak French for the first time, that became a meme in the MLATR community, especially the way that it ends, because she says like bonjour and then something else, and then she hears screaming out in the hallway because the space bikers are attacking, and then she screams and then turns around like, oh shit.
It's kind of funny that she gets taken out pretty easily by getting electrocuted, is used as a floor waxer, and when she finally gets to the chapel, she doesn't even break through the glass. She's just like, no. Like, she's pounding on it, but she doesn't even break through. I'm sorry, is she not that strong in this one?
You think super strength is the thing that she was built with, but apparently not when it comes to kicking out church glass window.
Well, they are pretty thick.
I guess. But it is funny that she's not even able to kick through it. And yet in one episode, she just opens a door and the entire wall comes down.
That's funny.
Oh my god. I did like when she tries to crash the wedding and Brad says he's just totally fine with letting it play out. She's like, Brad, I expect that more from Tuck than you. And then Tuck's like, you got that right, sister.
That was pretty funny, but it also shows that whatever feelings she has for him, friendship or romantic or otherwise, she cares about him and wants him to be happy. And the kiss on the cheek was really sweet.
Yes. It's just like what we said with Ron in the previous episode. It's like they do seem to care about each other.
Yeah. And they aren't jerks about it.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny that Tammy looks pretty nice under her helmet, and Brad falls for that, and I'm sure a couple of people online got really happy when they saw that. But I don't think Brad is enough of a masochist to want to be her pet forever.
That's the other thing. They're like, oh, because instead of putting a ring on him, they put like a collar on him. And it makes me wonder, it's like, so does that mean that the leader of the space bikers and that little guy that she has on the leash, are they married?
Yeah. I thought he was her little brother, but if they're married, ugh.
Or his bottom, or her bottom bitch, either way.
Oh, God. Oh, and did you notice that when she is saying, goodbye, Brad, like, for the first time, like, she's basically the alien from Aliens, a xenomorph?
Yes. Yeah. That's totally an Aliens reference, and I love that.
Let's see, and there's also, apparently their hats at the end can make them fly.
Yeah, what was that? That was just a really weird way of like, oh, well, we got to get him out of here, so yeah.
Oh, and the pet apparently can talk.
Oh god, yeah, because they have like this weird like pig-looking thing, and after Tuck is all disappointed that the wedding didn't go through, he's like, now how am I supposed to go on awesome space biker adventures? well, there's always a wedding still on, or whatever it says. And it's like, that is a really weird joke to end on.
Yeah, very awkward, but I think overall this episode worked, even if they did have to fake flashbacks to see Tammy's interest in Brad.
Yeah, right. Oh, and if anything, we can all take some solace in the fact that Tammy has the same voice actress as Jenny. So if anything, you can just close your eyes and pretend that that's Jenny talking to Brad and showing her feelings for him.
Yeah, that's cute.
And I'm with you. The kiss on the cheek was really sweet.
Absolutely. I think that probably triggered Brad into thinking, maybe I don't want to do this before they basically say, oh, you're just going to be a pet or a bottom bitch. Essentially.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing before we move on. Did you notice that apparently Tuck, despite being like 7 years old, is good with girls way better than Brad is?
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Does Brad need to ask him for advice?
Man, I don't know what's more awkward, having to ask your pet naked mole rat for romantic advice or your little brother.
Oh,
That's
very hard to decide which is worse.
But anyway, I guess now we move on to the last one, which I'm not even going to spoil. This is my least favorite of the bunch, but so let's get it over with. This is Hearts and Hooves Day from the second season of MLP. This was when Lauren Faust had officially left the show, like long before this episode was aired. She left so she can go work on Galaxy Girls, which still sadly is yet to see light of day.
Come on, somebody, pick it up.
And I like the other thing you said about this episode, like while you were taking notes for it. You're like, did Lauren Faust write this one? I didn't remember if she did. Like maybe this was an old script that she worked on and then they decided to do it. I can't tell. I didn't find anything saying that she worked on it because you're like, this is essentially just the same episode as the Powerpuff one except longer. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Very familiar. A teacher getting involved with a family member of one of the kids. Doesn't that sound familiar?
God, so let's see. As for the plot, so, yeah, it's pretty much the same as Keane on Keane. The Cutie Mark Crusaders notice that Miss Cheerilee doesn't have a special sun pony, as they call it, for Hearts and Hooves Day, their equestrian equivalent of Valentine's Day. So what they decide to do is pair her up with someone. This results in a song number, which I don't think is all that great, to be honest. I mean, it's them going through a bunch of different suitors, and you see a bunch of different cartoonishly exaggerated stallions, including one who has an obsession with jelly and jam. That was very weird. But then ultimately they land on Big Macintosh, and pretty much like the girls do, they decide to try and fix them up by a candlelit dinner in a gazebo with sunset and romantic music and everything. But it doesn't go through. This results in the fandom meme of Sweetie Belle going, "Oh, come on!" So then they have to try and think of a way to get them to like each other. And then you come across the only one of the main six to appear in the episode. Twilight shows up in one scene. She gives them a book on, equestrian history, and they find out that apparently Hearts and Hooves Day was created by some prince who created a love potion, or as they then find out, a love poison. But they decide to recreate it, and going by the ingredients, it seems like only Pegasi can make this because the ingredients include splash of rainbow, a tuft of cloud, and a Pegasus feather. So it really feels like this is something that only a Pegasus could make.
Yeah, very strange.
But it's weird because in the picture they show that he looks like, I forget if it was unicorn or earth pony, but he definitely wasn't a Pegasus, but whatever. So they create this potion, decide they're going to give it to them, and they take it, and they fall madly in love with each other. And just like the professor and Miss Keane, they do obnoxious lovey-dovey speak. And I would say this one's even more obnoxious than the other one. And I feel like that was the joke of the episode, and that's totally fine. But God, it's a joke that gets old fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Cutie Mark Crusaders were a lot ruder in this one, saying, like, how come someone nice like you doesn't have a special sun pony? And Miss Cheerilee just looks so done. It's like, ah.
You intrusive little brats.
Yeah. Thank goodness Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon weren't brats in this one. They didn't talk, thankfully.
Good God.
Yeah, that would have made the episode worse. But I did like the little like gray pony that gives a card to his teacher. He was so cute.
It's funny because I remember you said a similar thing in the Luna Eclipse episode. Every time Pip was on screen, you were like, "He's so adorable." So is that your inner pony fangirl coming out?
Maybe a little. But did you see how he walked and how squishy he looked? It's just so precious.
Aw.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, during the song, we see that video games apparently exist in this world.
Well, yeah, Button Mash has a cameo.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. And the designs for the rejected dudes were pretty funny. It's really funny that the girls, like, make a picnic twice, and Cheerilee and Big Mac figure out pretty quickly that they're trying to set each other up.
Yeah.
But at least it's not as awkward as in the Powerpuff Girls episode.
Oh God, yeah, that's the one silver lining here. It's not as awkward as that.
Yeah, and the girls pretty much give them a roofie to be all mushy gushy.
Yeah, that was oh God, that sparked a whole debate, like the moral ethics of this episode. And it's like, did they technically drug their teacher and Big Macintosh? And it's like, oh God, that's taking it to an even weirder area.
Yeah. And also, when at least they don't go as far, like in Powerpuff Girls, when they imagine like what things would be like if they were just ignoring their duties to be all mushy gushy with each other. Because they have an imagination segment where it's like they're going to be idiots and starving without their teacher and Big Mac around to make food.
That was the weirdest thing in the episode, is showing this whole like end of the world scenario. And it's like, I would say that there were more stakes in the Powerpuff Girls one, because you actually did see the city being attacked, and yet everyone acted like nothing was, like it wasn't a big deal. In this episode, it was like, oh no, everyone, like, no one's going to learn anything because there's no teacher at the school and there's no help on the farm to help give people apples. So then people are just going to be dumb and be malnourished.
Also, did you notice when the girls are trying to keep Big Mac and Cheerilee away from each other, they become insanely strong?
Yes, Big Mac pulls a house with ponies inside of it.
Yeah, and he's bouncing up and down like Pepe Le Pew.
Boingy, 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 boingy. Oh, and Cheerilee smashes through the like Carousel Boutique door, which is barricaded with a bunch of stuff in front of it. And I love it because when she smashes through that and the front door, I just imagine Rarity having a panic attack.
That's funny.
We're gonna fix that.
Oh, and the girls do rightfully get in trouble, like, because they're gonna do Big Mac's chores for him to make up for what they did.
Yeah.
But if Cheerilee can be strict with them, why can't she be strict with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon?
Right? Before they got redemptions? Like, yeah, oh my God. Like, what was the episode with the rumor gossip column? What was Ponyville Confidential? Like she's only strict with Diamond Tiara at the very end of the episode. It's like, why did you even let this little brat have power to begin with?
Yeah, doesn't she know that power corrupts, and this girl could corrupt very, very, very easily?
And they end on a fake out moment with them pretending to still be under, because they call each other like names, like they do the puppy love speak again, and the girls are like, no! And then they just wink at each other and walk into the sunset, and the episode ends.
I can't say the girls didn't have that coming a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, overall, I don't think this is like one of the worst episodes of season 2. I've seen so many people say that this was one of their most hated, but I think if anything, I just find the episode slightly annoying more than actually hating it. Because, I mean, like I said, that lovey-dovey speak stuff, oh God, they run that into the ground really fast. The only time I've seen an episode do that correctly was the Soup Nazi episode of Seinfeld, where Jerry is dating a girl and they can't stop calling each other schmoopy, and it gets on George and Elaine's nerves so badly, and it's really funny.
I haven't gotten to that episode yet, but I'm excited.
It's really funny. Like, it's one of the few times George and Elaine seem to be on the same page, because they both hate it.
Yeah, because it's gross.
Oh, you're my little schmoopy. Like how George even takes it to the extreme of, people who do that should be arrested. It's like that's a George Costanza thing to say.
Just imagining him in the Powerpuff episode and this episode, like saying, like being all grossed out would be funny.
That would be so perfect. So I think my personal favorite, I think we're both in agreement that motion sickness is probably the best one.
Yes.
And least favorite, you said that the Powerpuff one was your least favorite. Mine's probably the MLP one, but I think we dislike these, or dislike, quotation marks, these episodes for the same reasons. In that, the Powerpuff one had way worse pacing. That's the one thing about the MLP episode. The pacing wasn't bad.
Yeah, I think that's why I could tolerate it a little more, because having it be extended helps. Ironically, the Powerpuff Girl episode suffered because while it did have a shorter runtime, the pacing felt like a crawl.
It dragged in the opening, and it feels like it's going to end, but you're only at the halfway point, and then the second half of the episode just drags on even more.
Exactly.
Oh, God. But yeah, so I mean, we're both in agreement that motion sickness is probably the best one, and Ball and Chain, not an astounding episode, but it's definitely entertaining.
It was a fun episode that showed more character development for Brad and Jenny.
Yep, absolutely. So will this become a reoccurring series where every once in a while we just sit down and talk about episodes of shows we like, add a character? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess if this does well. But it was definitely fun to talk about these episodes because some of these episodes I don't think you've ever seen before.
If I have, it's been a long time, but it was fun like rewatching these because these shows were great, even if some of the episodes could be a little meh in some places.
Sure. Yeah, that pretty much does it for this video. Like I said, if you guys want this to become a thing every once in a while that we do, yeah, I think we could both do it. I mean, it was fun to rewatch these episodes and talk about them, so yeah, just have to wait and see. But don't worry, this isn't replacing Pony Fanboy Reviews or anything. Yeah, that's coming next month. Still trying to figure out what to do for that. But anyways, guys, until the next video, take care, and we'll see you next time.
See ya!